out. We're getting ourselves into draft, though, and with that being said, we'll get ourselves into second game of the day. Thanks for supporting us as ever. Top Esports now moving over onto the blue side.
Oh, yes.
And now we have ourselves a couple of bans coming through. A lot of bot lane bans once again.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Cassante perhaps a little less high priority, but the Senna still ungodly powerful. That champion, I remember Yamato doing a slightly unhinged breakdown of the Senna being so strong since 14.1. Many patches later, many changed things like support items later, and Senna's still incredibly high priority. The Karma changes a patch or two ago as well, still dominating the early parts of drafts. So Karma first pick comes on through. The Varus being considered on the other side, and after Jackie Love and Mako's very dominant performance with the Varus Nautilus, the Nautilus banned of course this time, but the Varus still open. That seems to be the current hovering concern for LGD, and they will lock that in. What to pair it up with, though, becomes the question.
So, Nautilus finally hitting the ban list, as I believe you highlighted there as well. Very important to take that one off the table. This has actually been a really high priority pick. I think that, oh god, it's been such a big change for LPL, moving away from some of the range supports towards some of the melee ones as well. It's been a big conversation which I've been trying to really push on, because I think the reason why LPL is speeding up its games right now is because we're getting more engage options through from the roles, which we're going towards more utility or DPS or something. The Karma has been locked in. It's 14.4 Karma, which I don't like nearly as much, so that's going to be something. Whereas on the other side, though, you do have the Nico as the big engage option on the other side, which kind of fits what we've been talking about, what the LPL has been going towards. But when you have that Karma, you don't have the engage, but you have a great ability to enable a carry. And what better carry right now than this uber stacking lizard thingy in the bot lane, Smolder?
Yeah, all I'm saying is that is very much a spoiled child. The ultimate in helicopter parenting. Mum comes flying on in at the drop of a hat every minute or so to fix her son's problems.
Could you imagine special up Smolder?
You were the drone with
and
the helicopter.
So it's like Smolder's there, they're just like hammers in like a DDR code, like in Helldivers. It's like Eagle Strike coming in, boom, it's just like the Eagle Run comes across instead of Mom.
Okay, I want like a Battle Academia or like a high school skin, because it's like parent-teachers night and Smolder's mum's coming in to fix the report card issues.
I like that
just yell at the teacher.
On the other side, though, we get ourselves a Kindred. Yes. Kindred has been a bit of an LPL specialty. We've seen it a couple of times elsewhere, but I think there was like one time where we saw Milky Way versus Meteor, and at the time that they played, there was only 6 major region Kindred games played. They, between the two of them, have played half of them. Now, as it's gone forward, I'm just going to check this as well, just on the side. I'm pretty sure that Meteor and Milky Way have played over half of all Kindred games worldwide right now. In terms of like the major regions.
Meteor is an excellent Kindred player. When Meteor was one of the best junglers in the LPL more consistently, it was on things like the Kindred that, to my mind, he was really making a name for himself on. Of course, there are a number of other excellent Kindred players in the league. The likes of Kanavi and Shun, obviously, have famously put a lot of time into the champion, but right now it has been Meteor, and of course, star of the moment, my boy Milky Way coming up from the LDL. It's not FPX today, so... Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was hyping him for hundreds of games. I kid you not, I did a lot of LDL casting of that guy last year.
That's the point, actually. Folks, if you actually want to talk about some of the development leagues as well, we see Shaya in this game, who's alongside some of the real veterans here. The LDL is a great place to go check in with them, see how that progresses throughout the year. We're going to the second part of the draft, though, as we get slightly more back on topic. A lot of the tanky champions gone again. We have noticed that even though Cassante hasn't been banned a lot, has been picked sometime. Well, it has been picked a little bit, but not nearly as much as it was before, which means you've got to find your tankiness elsewhere. You've seen the Rel locked in, which is not really tanky, but it's kind of the half tank. Something like it's being hovered over here as well, and we see like a little bit of the Alistair, a little bit of the Tom Kench. That can be tanky too, but it's not the same level as the Cassante. In a lot of ways, I think the tanks going out of meta have really favored the LPL. They prefer fast-paced, high-damage League of Legends. The Alistair allows you that brief window of frontlining, but even then, it's not the same level of noxious tankiness that Cassante can have.
And it's a different kind of tankiness, as you're saying, because part of it is things like the Alistair, it's snap engage. Cassante, not necessarily the worst engager, but more of a disruptor in a lot of ways. And that's a slightly different way to play the game, I think it's fair to say, though the nuance perhaps can wait for another time, as 369 this time around.
This is so great.
Likely picking up the Jace himself. And Birdle, I don't actually think he played the Jace badly individually, but the fact that Tien was up there all the time on the Viego, forcing flashes, forcing out of lane, man, Birdle never really got to come online in the Jace, and that Vi-Talia combo just never really got to work out from Haichao Meteor. Instead, the last pick is still the Cassante that, in some ways, has been a little less high priority than before.
So the Cassante is now just trying to survive this lane. It is the
It's
final.
his
It
reach.
is the final level of Halo Reach. You've got Noble 6 there holding the gun, and the final mission is survive. As you might even hear the ambulance in the background as the sounds of the city come into the microphone. There might need to be an ambulance up in this top lane very early, because it feels like this Jace or this Cassante is going to have an awful time if that lane snowballs. 369, this will be game 44 in his career of this game all time. It's one of his most played champions. I believe it's something like his 4th most played. He hasn't touched it, though, for quite a long time. And now I'm quite interested to see where he picks up with this as he continues this trend of going back towards carries and trying to put himself up in those damage numbers.
I'll do a quick check-in, because I did pull this up briefly, the Jace patch note change, because one of the reasons people are looking to Jace again after his very, very high presence last year, particularly in the mid lane, has been some serious buffs to his lane, serious buffs rather to his lane.
Just checking in on that, it has been over a year since 369 has played this. He played it once in LPL Spring. Before that, he played it a lot in 2022, but it's been a while since we've seen this being played. So I, for one, very excited to see more carry 369. Last year was the year of him being the front line. Now he is the carry. On the other side, Birdall will try and do what he did to so many other players last year and shut down one of those carries, whereas it's really the jungler, Meteor for LGD, that really wants to try and get things snowballing on his side as we hit the rift in game number 2.
Can Top Esports show LGD exactly how you're supposed to play around a Jace lane? We'll find out, I suppose, especially if we look towards the bot lane. Honestly, the fact that you have gone for the Smolder, who is honestly surprisingly difficult to get on top of, very slippery with a flash, a cleanse, and of course the ability to just literally flap away.
I love that that's an ability name.
It's so good.
It's right up there with Watch Out, Eep.
That's just the most, so annoying. Like, how do you be serious here? Watch out, Eep!
Yeah, I would love to have... I'd love to have more names just have, like, very vaguely descriptive but quite apt names. Like, imagine if most of Ryze's kit was just Blue Stuff 2, Blue Stuff 3. I'd enjoy that a lot. One thing, though, we have seen from this Smolder, we've seen it in top lane, we've seen it in bot lane, and there is technically a flex potential between it, but it does start stacking very, very quickly if it gets some early gold. You're looking to get something like the Essence Reaver or the Shojin to get yourself cooldown reduction, which then increases your stacks, which then increases your late game threat. In this game, I think that Top Esports are just looking to just say, look, we're going to have the Alistar, which makes it very hard to dive. We're going to farm from range as best as possible. LGD would love to get some early damage down so they can actually force the Smolder and the Alistar to play respectfully rather than just stacking up for forever.
I think partly as well it'll be eyes on the Kindred, who often has some pretty early aggressive moves. Of course, invading a Xin Sao, probably not the wisest idea. Kindred wins a lot of early matchups, but Xin Sao probably isn't one of them with his ability to jump on top of you as an AD carry, which feels a little bit miserable. So we'll see whether Meteor has something early shenanigan-wise to work with. Could well look towards the bot side this time around with a fair amount of lockdown to work with down there.
You can see that Shaya and Jinja are just trying to get a little bit of poke down before level 2 has been hit. So they're using their ability to walk beyond the wave. Jaculov, yeah, he's really trying to do something here. It's 3-1 in the bot lane, 1-0-1 top lane on this pick. It was only the one game from ZDZ, very late game performance. Actually, that game wasn't even that bad from that pick, and almost did some great stuff there. This champion feels like it is a sub-noxious to play around in professional play. We've seen a lot of it in LCS, of course, one of the other regions which we've seen a lot of play from recently. A little bit in the LCK too. This champion is really starting to show up as more people start to practice it.
Part of it as well is, from a balancing game design point of view, it's very difficult to fine-tune things like how quickly does this champion accrue stacks, because the rate in solo queue will often be very different to the rate in professional play, where lanes are a bit slower and the trading patterns and organization is just on a completely different level. So one of those things that obviously hurt Aurelion Sol initially was in the fact actually in pro play.
Oh my god, Cream makes that skill shot look hard. No one in their life has missed a Mantra Q before. He actually gets the root and doesn't quite get a high char. I just want to call that out because someone has to. We are obligated to.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted again. Anything more on the Smolder thing?
No, it was just more the fact that I do think, you know, Smolder will take a little bit of time to tune primarily on the stacking front, because the fact it changes and really enhances things like the Q, the executes, all these things that come on through with just how fast and how many stacks you get. You won't get the data right until you've seen it in pro play enough to have the data to work with. You can make best guesses, but it's quite hard to make those accurately when you haven't seen a champion properly function on the Rift.
369 in this top lane matchup, been left alone in an isolated 1v1, has gone for the Conqueror, so it's not the Phase Rush like we saw in the last game. I think the Phase Rush very important versus the Aatrox matchup. As we highlighted, just saying, look, if you get the Phase Rush, you get out of the Infernal Chains very easily, so that's very important. Whereas the Conqueror, if Cassante gets on top of you after you've used a lot of your combos, it's really hard to survive the extra DPS coming through. It's a very powerful early game ruin, especially with Jace being able to get the auto reset from the ranged W as well. It gives you like a really good ability to very quickly get the lot of auto attacks powered up that way. See that Tien is down towards his bot side now, finally looking to alleviate some pressure from his bot lane. With Shaya and Ginger out, they spotted out, they have a ward, and we are left with a fairly calm early game.
Generally speaking, calm early game will nominally favour things like a Smolder, who likes to try and get to at least 25 stacks early on, so his, what does that upgrade? I think it's the Q then gets upgraded.
So I think all of them are the Q, right, the stacks.
Yeah.
Right? So you have, I can't remember the stack breakpoints. I remember 225 is the execute on it. So you
25 is the AoE.
So 25 is the AoE, then it has like an AoE, but then it also spreads behind it, splashes behind the target, and then it goes into the execute later as well. And for each stack as well, beyond just the breakpoints, it will then also give you the extra burn on the Q damage as well, which will kind of continue the extra damage. So it means that, again, so one thing we'll track is Jackie-Love, what build are you going, how much cooldown reduction do you get, and how many stacks do you get alongside that. But that's one stack. The other kind of stack is the familiar relatives. I don't know whether they're technically wyverns or whether they're proper dragons, but it is going to go down to the side of Meteor on this Kindred. The difference between a dragon and a wyvern, for those that don't know, is that wyverns don't have legs. Their arms are that, well, they don't have like front legs. Their wings kind of function as that instead. I can't remember. Wait, do they have that?
Does that mean Game of Thrones dragons are actually wyverns?
Yes. Technically they are.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm trying to remember about the dragon model. I can't remember if they actually have proper legs.
I don't think they do.
Look, when you view them from top down,
I'm from the other direction
it's
as
quite
well.
hard.
I know,
Yeah.
it's not often the dragon.
it's like how there are a lot of League of Legends models which look very strange when you view them at like people perspective.
Yeah.
Because you look at them and go, hang on, those legs are not proportioned, right? What happened there?
Kale's a big one for that, actually. You know, because they make it look as though her wings are huge for the proper angel effect.
Yeah.
But then you look at it normally, like her body's super weirdly proportioned to make the wings look great, basically.
I mean, fair. Yeah. The wings do look pretty good. I'm not gonna take that away. As
Lee Sin's incredible hunched neck.
Yes. I think one of my favorite things as well is a lot of the stretch animation, the stretch frames in mid animation as well, because you have them to make the animation look good. But we might see if this bot lane is stretched at all. And that's going to be the aftershock built off for Mako. You might have to blow the flash.
So still have the mounting dread, which will claim his life. It stakes for dinner, and Kindred eating good. It is a wolf in sheep's clothing that hunts down the farm animal.
And the big thing here is that Jackie-Love is chunked out to the point where he can't farm the rest of this wave. Potentially that's going to be another plate going over. He can't wave clear. Quickly recalls. Has a call fields now, but good play from LGD's jungler of Meteor. He's a player which, you know, used to be the innovator of the jungle role. He was kind of like... he was the Milky Way when he came in, although, of course, Milky Way has been doing things to probably a much higher level at that point. But Meteor has had a weird couple of years. He's he went from being the hotshot rookie to someone who couldn't really quite transition into being, you know, like one of the mainstay elite junglers of the LPL. This year, though, has felt like he's had some great moments. He's been going back towards his innovation. He's been playing a lot of Graves and Kindred before the rest of the league picked it up. Moments like that, they do help. Shutting that bot lane down a little bit might help stop the stacking a little earlier.
See, stack number 2 is on the Raptors, but Tien is going to be very swiftly getting rid of those. Of course, what it will do, though, is once this goes down, it will notify Meteor that the stack is gone, because Wolf gets annoyed and you'll hear the audio cue of it.
Isn't it only a little while after it's gone down? So
I
it doesn't
don't know how long
so
it
I'm pretty
is.
sure it doesn't tell you immediately when it's taken, because that gives too much information overall the same.
Delay.
I think it's a little while after, because otherwise, as soon as it's taken, you go, well, I know the jungle's on the top side of the map now, and then actually it's very important in pro play.
Well, yeah, but exactly, and that's part of one of those things that if you know what you're doing, you can do a lot to track the enemy jungle with that. I think it's only like a camp or so different, so you can have sort of a vague idea. It's like, okay, is likely in this vicinity.
Yeah. One of the other things which helps the jungle tracking as well is good defensive vision, and you can see that this aggressive deep ward puts in its top side from top esports just behind the red buff, and they've got a really good vision line going right the way down the center of the map. Means that Meteor will find it harder to find entrances into lane. Tien has actually been spotted as well now. As jungle information available for both sides.
You know what's going on, and both junglers quite happy just sit around here and be problematic. Tien Still debating coming on through here. Goes back into this try brush, and both junglers just wanting to see whether something will happen. How often do we see this? The waiting game. The person who blinks first can lose, and it is. TES leaves, but trigger isn't pulled, and they get away with it. Just wondered for a second there with the man advantage whether they might try and pounce.
Meteor using this window of power to get up out on the map. Meteor is going to get a mark from.
No, it's not. It's on the ground.
No, okay, all right. You're right. You're actually completely right. I think I saw the mounting dread thing, and I'm like, is that the mark? And I was like, no. So funnily enough, I actually do play a load of Kindred as well. Do you know where I mainly play Kindred? Though?
ARAM. I know where you play it.
I play so much ARAM Kindred. You know, I think it is peak League of Legends. Getting a 5-man unit and saying, we are playing the stacking minigame. We will all die for 1 kill, and eventually, if you 5 for 1 enough but get 10 stacks, it doesn't matter. As this one has got a stacks of Q from Birdle as he goes on to 369. No phase rush.
It's a lot of damage back. 369 does need to back away. Does have a flash to work with, but now the
no!
369 fell the 1v1. TM flashes in, misses the whip, becomes lightning, but should surely have an audacious charge. No way! Birdle gets both flashes and 369 fumbles the solo kill.
Birdle gets just a clutch shield to get out of that one alive. It's 369. It's his 4th most played champion of all time, but he hasn't played it in a year. And some of that rust is potentially starting to show as Birdle wins out in the 1v1 and gets out alive. LGD now, what will they do with this? With their top laner not being on the map and Tien still being on top side, it doesn't look like LGD can really capitalize towards Grubs, and that Cream's caught.
Deadly moment. The Magnet Storm comes on through, and there's just no getting rid of that irresistible attraction. Cream down for the count.
Oh, what have we got here? LGD, they've got themselves 3 kills early now. They've managed to get themselves a very important kill in the Jace lane. And what did we say? Every death in a Jace lane matters double. It's the kind of like the Caitlyn of the top lane, which is quite fitting given that they're both in the Arcane and the whole Piltover kind of thing. Anyway, there's a connection there somewhere along the line. You're meant to be lane dominant. If you lose that lane dominance, a lot of your champion identity goes with it. 369, he's got himself a tier, but he hasn't got himself up to his first items just yet, and they're looking to make this hurt double. Because Jinzhao doesn't have his ult now, but he might still get himself some CC, but 369 with a move speed boost from changing form from cannon to hammer, gets himself away.
Kind of wondered there whether if that Shattering Strike lands, how dead 369 might be, but fortunately for him, doesn't land. Also, without the phase rush, this game's gone towards the Conqueror for a little bit more dueling stats, and that's all well and good, but it does mean extricating yourself from situations a little bit different.
We're going to get a replay of this now. So Birdle goes in and gets the knockback, gets like the full kit of the tank Cassante, goes straight through into his damage count as well. After he's used up all of his immobility, 369 flashes forward to get the guaranteed Q, but doesn't quite get it. But we have to go away from it as there is a return kill in the mid lane. Nice. Kill to Cream. That's important. First one on the board now for top esports. We don't quite get to see the full shame of 369 missing the 1v1.
He is spared some blushes there, but Pepperidge Farm remembers, and I suspect chat will as well. So as it stands, still a game that LGD are feeling a lot more comfortable in. Yes, the gold lead is pretty much non-existent. 200 gold means very little, but at the same time, much more proactive, much more like they have something to say in the game. As said, the fact they do get the kill in mid lane, the fact that Jackie has been free stacking, getting 3 plates down here on a Smolder, with how well you scale, giving free gold to Smolder like that feels pretty good for top esports.
And he's on 81 stacks right now, which means he has the first of them, and this next one will be at 125, then it's 225. So we'll wait to see and track them. As Mako is on vision, Jackie will stack cancel his recall to make sure that his support will be fine. He has Essence Reaver, which means that he has the early cooldown reduction. Now if he gets towards something like a Shojin as a second item, we'll see what he goes towards. It means that he'll have the ability to get even more cooldown reduction to stack even more Cream. Gets himself the W, and just going to just keep chunking through abilities. It's just Karma right now. This is even nerfed Karma. This is with the reduced AP ratio on the Q again from 14.2. As Cream now has the Malignance, and that will do disgusting damage as he has that breakpoint.
I think part of the thing is what the buff to Karma did with people went and played her and went, wait, actually this is super busted. And despite the ratio on the Q still going down, she's still got some decent ratios on the E. She's still really synergistic with the Malignance. Her damage isn't that far off, especially when base damages are so high on the champion.
This is going to be a bit of a historical cut, but some of you might remember when Vladimir was like a staple of pro play between season 5 and 6. And what came around that point was a lot of people started playing Vladimir after a series of buffs, and after he was nerfed so many times in a row, people had already learned how to play him and understood how the item interactions worked, that then it didn't even matter that he was nerfed after that point, he was still being played. Jakilov ends up actually helping his jungler out there too, stacking a little bit by just hitting abilities on the camps, but you can see that with something like the Karma, people now know how to play this, and they're starting to kind of use it even after those nerfs. It's going to be, once again, objective taken from LGD on this top side, so it's going to be a split in Dragons, a split in Grubs, but the Herald goes the way of Lagandia. And we're going to see now top esports not really have a cross map available to them.
Did you just go for the full name of LGD there?
So I noticed that when we were watching the Chinese casters, so we came into this as well, they did refer to them as Lagandia, which is a name which they, so it used to be a chili oil sponsor which they used to have, which they no longer have, but they've had it for, they just became known by it in like 2009 when they were a big team back then in other esports. And yeah, chili oil, they're spicy.
Indeed it is, and Jakilov decides that the spiciest thing he's doing is call his mother in to help him with his homework, which is clearing out the mid lane wave. So the Herald comes on down and doesn't claim that turret, but does take it down to about 20% HP, so anytime that's left alone, likely in danger, but all the while, Cream does secure first turret, I believe, on the side of Top Esports, left alone in that side lane, and it's a pretty nice moment for Top Esports, who I believe with that do in fact claim the gold lead.
They do. Be very interested to see what the individual gold lead is going to look like between Birdle and 369, though. You can see that Birdle is actually pushing up into Jace right now. That makes sense because you have strong side of the map for LGD on the top side as they move most of their members towards there. And 369 has himself his first item right now, but it's not quite the level of dominance which you want from a Jace. You haven't been able to take turret plates. You have a CS lead, but CS lead is the bare minimum on Jace because this champion really is quite snowbally, especially against tanks. You just want to make sure that you never really fall behind in that regard. It reminds me a little bit of earlier seasons of Jace because you don't have the Cyrildas and the Eclipse with the percent pen right now. It's actually quite hard to outscale them. Shaya runs up, might have to blow the Ghost, and he does. Mako not flashing forward, so it's just the summon up for a little bit of a misstep from LGD's bot lane.
I will also say, just as a complete tangent, that Smolder's walk animation with his little like prim little prance is very satisfying. There's a lot of lapdog and cat animation for that.
It does remind me of our family dog.
It does exactly remind me of Ziggy.
So we're brothers, and our parents, once we left home, decided they needed a replacement for us. So they got a dog and called her Ziggy, which is short name for Volda Zigina Beatrix the Almost Magnificent. Don't think about it too much.
There is context, but
and anyway, she walks like that. Want to see more of that? There are pictures out there somewhere. TN is alone in bot side, Robert. He's probably dying for this. At least Mermblowing Flash.
Does have a Crescent Guard that I don't think really saves me. He's popping it anyway, gonna try and flash over the wall! Does make it happen, and he gets out alive! Tien buys enough time and is quick enough on the flash finger to get out to safety.
So, he has to blow a lot, but this is something that we've known from Tien. Sometimes when he has like a weak position in an area of the map, other junglers would back off and say, well, that's dangerous. What Tien says is, I'm going to try and get value out of a difficult situation because it will put me ahead in an unexpected way. He has been punished for a lot for it this year, but he does at least end up getting out alive. LGD going to continue dragon stacking. It's only the second dragon because Top Esports took one of the first two as well. Infernal Rift, though, and with the Kindred being able to kind of get out onto the map and get themselves objectives, very important. Cross map coming in on top side.
Birdle tries to play this one out. Doesn't really get a lot of work done with the Pathmaker. Still trying to trade this one out with a Q3. The Untofo Strike's doing some work, but I think he is striking out. Nothing to be found there, and the home run goes with Top Esports.
So, kill goes over to Cream. Cross map comes through, second turret of the game, and LGD caught a little bit flat-footed in regards to that one, but they're going to get themselves a mid lane out of turret. So, while Top Esports might have got themselves the home run, it feels like LGD are securing some of their own bases and parts of the enemy base in Top Esports in 2 turrets.
To get something back, a teleport towards the top lane to try and mitigate that shove. Mako is around, and Jinjiao might be attacked on the way over. Haichao trading out with Tien, but Tien now in a dangerous position, but no flash. The Crescent Guard not quite up yet, or might just have come off cooldown. There's Meteor here as well, and they will back away with the top lane tier 2 intact, but the teleport burned now from both Birdle and Haichao, as Birdle teleported toward in the mid lane there. I wonder whether they're trying to catch out someone who was over-shoving from Top Esports.
Very intriguing. Last minute a play or so, as it feels like both the teams are realizing, okay, how many globals have we got to play with? How much can we get damage on towers? And because they both have 3 grub buffs, they have no exact advantage in regards to tower killing from neutral objectives at least, and now the game is very wide open in terms of a lot of the territory now being open. No bot lane out of turrets, we have a mid lane out of turret down, a top lane out of turret down. Another thing which this keys into is, in the last week or 2 weeks now at this point, LPL has moved away from more of the Renata and the Ashe and some of the other kind of ranged supports, and Nami as well, also on that list, and going more towards stuff like the Rel, particularly the Nautilus. The Rakan's in there too. And though the Rakan isn't a tank support, all of these things have something in common, which is that they can ward safely. They can face check most of the time. We saw last game, obviously, that wasn't the case. What that means is that vision control is very more... It's easier to establish with just a support going off and doing stuff on their own, which means that you look at the vision right now, and it means that you get some more intricate scenarios like this. Tien's walking up, has himself an ult again, stops a recall, and they can start fighting.
Red buff stolen, which is potentially significant. Birdle chunked to about half HP. Backing away for now. The arrow goes wide from Xiaoye. Tien goes forward with the audacious charge, but I think it might have been a little bit too audacious as they have to flash away. Jackie Love, though, is quick enough with a flat to not have to burn that and does summon in Mum. But I don't think this parent-teachers meeting is changing any way, shape, or form. Kindred Ultimate comes on down. The Lamb's Respite buying some space.
369.
But they are going straight to the slaughterhouse. 369, though, is turned around on, getting some damage back, and Meteor stays alive. It ends up being a 3-4-1. In favor of LGD.
Serious credit to Jin Zhao and Meteor for cleaning up the back end of that fight. Jin Zhao gets a great combo after Haichao just flashed, forced a load of those flashes. And LGD, after securing that vision control with the melee supports and the control over the bot side of the map which they had, choose their terrain very well. And top esports after that are in a bit of an awkward position. They fall behind in gold despite the fact that they had a lot of neutral objectives in terms of those towers beforehand. LGD's really come to play. Starts off where you think, okay, might be a bit awkward, but you can see that Mako has blown his ult very early on the top side of this fight. I think he was cleansing out of the Varus ultimate, but watch what happens here. It's a fight in multiple parts. Haichao forces out a couple of these flashes, particularly from Cream, but when that's down, the Varus ult lands. It clumps everyone into this choke point. Jin Zhao, even with a low HP, says, okay, I have a Kindred ult to back myself up, gets the engage, gets the save afterwards. He doesn't end up going down. Jungle support from LGD getting great value in that fight.
We haven't really had a chance to stack in here and see what Meteor's stacks are at. I think check-in and stacks were a little bit confused there from my end, but the point stands. The point is, Meteor, we need to know how many stacks he's got. I think he's managing to do just fine, and the gold lead still dead even, bluntly. 300 gold means very little, and Haichao going down evens it straight back up again.
He used his flash in that last play. It means he doesn't have it to be safe in a side lane. So LGD not quite covering all of their bases this time, and top esports managing to punish Mako. He's had a good split, a good year, good return to form. He was great in spring of last year, but he really fell off in summer. Got to keep hitting back onto it, saying, actually, he's looking like he's back. And with Jackulov now in a powerful smolder and being one of the best AD carries in the LPL in his own right, this bot lane from top esports, I think they're ready to start popping now. I think with the 2 items from Smolder, you've got yourself up to a very large amount of ability haste, particularly with Shojin giving you a lot of basic ability cooldown, which affects your Q, on top of the ability haste, which you already get from the item.
Which means more
stacks. And then the Essence Reaver. All of this means more stacks. He's at 214 right now. He'll be at 225. Probably for this fight, if he can get one more wave, and with the dragon spawning, we'll see if that happens. If Jackalope can get to 225 before this fight, that could be a game changer. He could become the main carry.
See that Jackie Love is just hovering around this mid lane, high up as well, really wants to begin attacking that wave, does so, and I think this will mean the stacks should be in very, very shortly indeed. I don't know whether we'll get a final chance to check, but if we see the execute bars turn up on the players of LGD, will know how it's playing. Dragon spawned, right. They're ready to go.
It might come out with just one more W cooldown. He's got himself an ult, which he can summon in from long range as well. He finds out a clone of Haichao on the side, and with that, again, so close to getting it. The fight's starting. This could be a big moment for top esports to start turning on the damage numbers.
Meteor looks like he's going to try and recall here because he got chunked out. It must have been by a Mantra Q. He's too busy keeping an eye on that Smolder. They are going to have to just pull back. They might be just giving this one up.
It's a shame. Haichao doesn't have flash for this fight. That's a big extra consideration. Jinzhou, Haichao, Meteor, if they all have flashes, it's much easier to play this, and it means that...
Rushing?
So they're giving up Dragon. Now, this wasn't Soul, and as much as we said, okay, it looks like both teams are spoiling for a fight. 225 stats coming in for Jackulov on this Smolder as well. What it actually ends up being is, as we see that Meteor does only have the 4 stacks, so we'll be checking on that too, which means that's the first range increase, but not the second one. It's very important. But with the quick recess, Jackulov, has he missed the memo here?
Don't think they quite realised. They had an idea, but he's swift enough on the retreat. The flap, flap, flap at this point is a very swift option to get out. And what importantly, that reset bought them was second items. They've got a lot here to work with. This Baron will burn through very quickly with a double AD carry.
Yeah, exactly. Meteor, huge Baron DPS from the jungle on hit Varus. This will go down quickly, but JackeyLove is strong. They can't allow this Smolder to get damage.
Tien isn't here yet. I think this is gone before he gets in range. Finally into the bush. They're trying to buy some space and time. Massive 3-man headbutt pulverize alongside a steal as well. Top Esports get everything they could ask for within this fight, and it commences with a Blom, a triple kill coming through for Smolder as JackeyLove looking to roar into life. How much more will they find at the end of this? An audacious charge forward to claim the Varus will ensure a swift kill. The wind becomes lightning. We freeze frame because it's just too graphic for us to keep an eye on.
It's too graphic. We can't show it. Cut the tape. Cut the tape. But Top Esports, they get themselves everything they want. They get a full clean ace. They get the Baron steal. They get themselves a huge amount of presence in this game, and the gold lead will explode with it. I'm gonna go drop down the quality to see if it survived now at this point. Top Esports, that will be the play which realistically ends this series.
Well, we break the stream momentarily as the game is broken by Top Esports. Smolder, no kills before that, comes in, gets a triple kill because the stacks are all in and everybody's dead.
And now everyone very happy on the side of Top Esports. We said, hey, look, it's getting to the point where Smolder can become really the main character of this game, and you can see now that exactly that. A huge amount of work from Mako and JackeyLove. Mako, what a fantastic series he's had. What he ends up doing is clumping all three carries together. Birdall can't frontline in time. The ult comes over on top of them. It means that also that Meteor's not really in position to really do DPS to the Baron as well. He loses the smite fight and he can't use the ultimate to keep the Baron alive as well throughout it. This was a fantastic play team fight, particularly from the bot lane of Top Esports.
Yeah, that headbutt I think actually also pushed him out of the Baron pit far enough that I don't think smite was a realistic option either. It was so tricky. Now the extended fight that we did freeze on briefly, we get to see exactly how it happened, just waiting for an audacious charge.
That he did, as we get back towards live as well, and hopefully that won't happen as well. Both Huya and Billy both having some issues today, but that's okay, we can work with them. It's managed to treat us just fine enough so far. Haichum has flash, has ult, has maybe one shot left in the chamber. Top Esports, they're on the Baron play right now. How much can they realistically get out of this next phase of play, though? It's a flash in from Jinzhao.
Shattering strike, and all the while we didn't really see all that much happen. Looks like Cream has to flash, but that doesn't turn into all that much. Towards the inhibitor turrets we go, and Top Esports here in force with the AD carry and the Jace will absolutely eviscerate this turret, you have to imagine.
Well, I'm just going to drop down the quality again and see if anything's happening. That's a great question, because we have a fight.
Exactly that. The Pop Blossom gets onto 2 in the backside, but immediately eviscerated. Smolder is growing up oh so fast indeed. The Lamb's Respite comes down, but I don't think it saves anything. It just ages the cut a little bit more. And Lamb, well, it's just chops, isn't it?
And it's been a little bit bitty for the last few minutes, but you get the overall picture. Top Esports march in towards the base. They get themselves a Baron steal, a clean fight, and they don't lose any deaths between that Baron and the end of the game as well. They're marching forward, and this should be the end of this series.
Billy dies as the game dies, and Top Esports find themselves a very successful Baron power play to end the game.
Obviously, folks, the end of that game had a lot of issues from Billy's side. We tried Huya earlier, and that was a little bit bitty. Billy, it looks like it's struggling as well. As far as I'm aware, it's not on our end. But these are the 2 streaming servers that we're technically allowed to use. But obviously, shame on that front. But yeah, hopefully it'll clean up for the second series. Top Esports, I guess big takeaways from this one are the fact that bot lane, oh my god, they're on form.
Yeah.
I think that their last series versus the FPX, JackeyLove and Mako were actually quite disconnected from the rest of their team. So this is a big moment for them. So yeah, again, apologies again, folks. As far as I'm aware, there's not much we can do on that one. Yeah, thanks for holding up, thanks for sticking in with us. And yeah, I'm actually kind of annoyed we got like a lot of those big fights is completely wrecked by Billy.
I know.
Like, we literally switched mid-game from Huya to Billy, like in game 1 thinking, well, okay, this looks better now. And it's completely fine for the rest of that. And then just like, oh, by the way, the biggest player of this game,
like, all I'm saying is they named themselves after Railgun from Index, who notoriously in the first scenes of that show and light novel fries the power output. And you wonder why the stream occasionally just breaks, you know?
Yeah.
You've named yourself after an electrical disaster.
That's true, actually. Yeah, so those of you that don't know, Bilibili used to be effectively the Crunchyroll of China, so it's like an anime streaming service, and then obviously went way beyond that into just a huge like YouTube equivalent as well, and a big social media in general. Now the thing is, they wanted to call it something which is a direct homage to a certain magical index or a certain scientific railgun, like two really big anime slash light novels from the Japanese scene. And there's a character called Mizuka Mikoto who is Railgun, whose nickname is Bidi Bidi, which is like being shocked with an electrical shock.
Yeah, it's like an
Then obviously you say that, but
yeah.
then you kind of like change the syllables into more of like a Chinese pronunciation. It's Billy Billy. So Billy Billy comes from Railgun's nickname. They are just Billy Billy are just weebs.
Yeah, just so you know.
I can hydrate. I should, yes.
Go hydrate. I actually need to get the
You do that.
myself.
Do that. So second series of the day is Billy Billy WE, obviously. So we'll get on with that afterwards. And I guess we're gonna stay on Billy Billy. I think that's probably the best option.